Today on Lulz, Brian goes through his exhaustive list of people within the DFS and fantasy community who could potentially be feds, including prime suspect Whistles Go Woo, who we recently had on the show. Maybe we talk a little best ball game theory, maybe a little poker gossip, all today on Lulz.
Does he think? I think he thinks this. He thinks this is a go. Vegas Dave thinks this is a go.
Hot naked girls doing yoga.
What?
Why don't you just win like a man?
Random.org. Type in 1 for yes, 2 for no, and let the DFS gods pick for you.
And I'm absolutely begging you not to dupe us. Please don't dupe us. Was the Fed picture here? So when I was making the thumbnail for today, I Googled Fed and this picture came up. Is this like an iconic article that I ended up seeing? Like, how did you know that this photo identified Fed?
That's like a libertarian meme of like, okay, Fed, because these guys, like, I don't know where it's from, actually. I should know that, but you could see the flags in the background look like a "Don't Tread on Me" flag and an American flag or something there.
Yeah, so this is where the article I saw it, the Babylon Bee 7 easy ways to spot a Fed. And they do all kind of look like DFS bros. So I mean, maybe you're onto something. What do we look for? The telltale military cuts. Says, greetings, fellow Trump supporters. Would you like to insurrect something on this fine morning? Just calling you Mr. Anderson. Their MAGA hat is clearly just an FBI hat with duct tape over it. Look for the forked lizard tongue and reptilian eyes. That's definitely Whistles. Screeches in terror at the name of Donald Trump, and their Apple iPods have a curly wire hanging down and look suspiciously like an FBI earpiece.
Those guys in that picture, they're not Liberty Bros, right?
No.
Like, no.
And so what inspired this list? Did you end up doing specific polls, or where did this data come from?
Yeah, I did 2 polls.
Two different polls, and I'm pretty surprised. So Jack Settleman, who's now transitioned into a career as a NFL and NBA insider, he tops the polls. I thought for sure Whistles Go Woo would run away with this.
It's surprising, wasn't it? Yeah. After all the rumors.
I just feel like Jack's a little too overexposed to actually be a Fed, where Whistle's kind of laying underneath the radar, a little bit more suspicious. I mean, it would be I don't know. I just can't see it with Jack.
I think it's the look. Like, he looks like he could be in that meme.
That's true. Know? That is true. But Whistles, I mean, you photoshopped him on there, and we get him in some, low cut.
I didn't do that.
Jeans.
I didn't do that.
This is straight. This is straight. I mean, trust me, I know a Brian Photoshop job when I see it.
No, Ricky D sent me that photo, which was clearly not photoshopped.
Did Ricky really say that?
How does Jack get his insider information? It's a question maybe you should ask him on Club Top Shot one of these days.
I guess only a Fed would have access to wiretaps, NSA level surveillance. It does check out here.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know that, but
maybe, we only have we're less than 50 people watching live. Maybe Brian's top Fed power rankings wasn't a good clickbait title for this episode.
I didn't see that until like 10 minutes ago. I'm like, what is he doing? It didn't even have any likes.
This is how the sausage gets made. I say, Brian, do you have anything that you think would be a fun topic? And Brian's like, no. And then I'm like, well, we'll figure it out. I'm not worried about that, but I have to put something on the thumbnail.
Pete, where is all the other DF shows going to get their ideas from if we don't do an actual show?
That's right. We got to be the idea, minor league system for content ideas. 50 watching and no chat either. I mean, we're just bombing. We finally had a Wednesday. You know what? I could have just put Brian and Pete do a best ball draft, and we'd have 150 people watching right now. But we're swimming against the grain.
If you guys think this is going to stop me from continuing the Fed bit, you are sorely mistaken. That will continue.
I was listening to you on with Davis. I didn't get to finish it yet, but I was laughing at you and Ricky D battling it out in the MLB streets, and he didn't like your idea to flatten the payout structures after you lost to him.
Yeah, son of a bitch. Yeah, he got me. He nipped me.
Eric says, Pete, you should sell your own line of tank tops. I literally have my own line of tank tops. I literally have them. And you know what? You want to know how literal this is, Eric? When you go to my store, I have it as the featured set of collection right now. You can get a Value Hound tank top, you get a splash plate. You know what I need to add? Should I add a Lulz tank top, Brian? We're more of a winter crew here. I think I should add a Lulz tank top.
Do it. I'll buy one. Is Eric a plant maybe for this nice little segue to your store?
Yes.
Speaking of Fed.
I basically kind of my routine is before every show, I'll slide into a couple people who follow me, DMs, just random people. I say, hey, what's your Venmo? If I slip you $20, will you ask a comment that can tee me up? You know, sometimes it'll be like, Pete, what was the link for that video you did about week 17? And I'll be like, well, funny you say. And then I'll drop it right down. So you're on to me. Yes, this is the big news. As Paul said, it took me by surprise when we hopped on right before. Title could have been Brian shaved his beard. I mean, walk us through this big decision.
It's hot. It's hot out there. I'll probably just let it grow back now at this point.
Did you shave yourself or did you go to the barber?
No, I just shaved myself. Let's go outside and just go the whole thing and walk back in.
I mean, I know that you don't strike me as the person who would like enjoy the luxury of going to the barber shop, but I feel like if I grew that big of a beard, I would go enjoy just laying back in the chair and letting someone take care of it.
No, I do. I've gone many times. There's an awesome barber in Lincoln Square, actually, but I haven't been there since COVID.
Okay.
You know, like somebody like this guy from the Europe, like Eastern Europe or something, doesn't speak English. And like, have you ever done that where like they burn your ear here and shit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the guy goes nuts. It's great.
The closest
and he's always backed up too. It's like hard to get in there. I
know there is like, I notice around me, there's some really good barber shops and there'll be like a line around the door. And then there'll be some where there's just nobody there. And I'm always very suspicious of, I can't go there if it's not busy, I get really worried why they don't have any customers.
I love this is considered clean shaving here in the chat.
Yes.
There's almost a beard already.
Well, I also get it. Like when people associate your face with having a beard, going full clean shave feels like a whole, like this is, you kind of eased us into it. Like I didn't log on and go, oh my God, like I would have if you looked like me. It's
also glasses too. Like I stopped wearing contacts like not that long ago. Just they were like hurting my eyes just for no other reason. Now everyone probably just thinks I'm constantly only wearing glasses, but I wore contacts like 95% of my life.
Yeah.
How often do you shave?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I shaved yesterday and I nicked my chin here a little bit. I would say I shave once every 4 to 5 days. I think is probably about my window. Like I went to Colorado. I shaved last Wednesday before I went to Colorado, and then I shaved yesterday, and it was like getting a little long for me. And so that was Wednesday to Tuesday. So I can go 5 to 6 days and not look completely disheveled.
When I worked in Springfield, you have to wear a suit every day, right? And which is annoying. And then you have to shave too, unless you have like a full beard. And like there'd be union guys going like, "Hey Brian, like if I went like this, they'd like talk shit to me, like, but not in a cool way, not like in a buddy way, like you're disrespecting the chamber." Have you told the people about your Denver trip yet on the Swolecast or anything?
No, but I do want to get into something because I'm laughing real quick. Tyler's saying I should have teed up a shaving kit and promo code, and Casey saying turned in late. The funny thing is I literally was emailing back.
I lost
me to oops, what happened there? Where they wanted me to do run ads on my channel for Manscaped. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, well, what kind of arrangements do you guys do as far as ad deals? And they're like, oh, well, we normally do a 3-month trial run. and then see how well you do with conversions, and then we'll re-up you. And it's like, I'm not fucking shilling Manscaped for free for 3 months with no guaranteed money, just a complete free roll for them. Only downside for me. And so I said, I am going to pass Manscaped, but thank you. But I was this close to becoming a Manscaped influencer, apparently.
Yeah. What the, where do they get off on that? Like, oh, just do this work for free it's like an internship.
Yeah.
Like a marketing internship. That's insane.
And because like so much of it, and of course they're getting a fucking free ad out of this conversation right here, but so much of it is just like the exposure and putting it out in front. You do that for 3 months with no guarantee. Like, get out of here, Manscaped.
It's not really an ad though. We're kind of shitting on them. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about how we don't shave very often anyway. So
yeah, just go to CVS and get Gillettes like the rest of us. All right.
No, I hate them too. That fucking ad campaign they did a couple years ago. Oh my God. Fuck them.
Yeah. There you go. STO, Shave Theory Optimized, Manscaped. Yeah, exactly. And then Walshy, shaving every 5 days is the most not going to make it thing I've ever heard. It's actually incredible. Like, do you enjoy shaving? I don't think does anyone enjoy shaving.
Can they razor burn as frequently? As long as it's like lucky to live in a time where you can actually walk around with a 3-day beard. No one cares.
Yeah. My other thing that's kind of crazy. I don't know. It must have been. I've attempted to grow out beards like a couple times, and the one weird thing that happens is mine starts to come in like I have like red hairs that come in, and I don't know.
Mine does that too, yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of like freaks me out. Like I have blonde hair. I mean, trust me, guys, the carpet doesn't match the drapes. When that red hair comes in, so I just like I don't know where that's coming from. I don't like the red beard look. I mean, no offense to the red beard guys out there, it just feels weird on me.
So I was blonde until like bright blonde until I was like 16 or something. And I get the same thing. Like my beard gets a lot of sun and starts going red. So your beard isn't blonde otherwise though?
I mean, I would say it's like 60% blonde, but then when you start mixing in the red, like the red's the more dominant color that you notice.
So far, this is probably my favorite show of all time that we've ever done.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, I did post this in the chat, and I don't know this kid. Thinking about different people doing influencer campaigns. You know this the kid Landon Tice that does poker and stuff?
Yeah.
So I noticed him, and like I know him from like he did some stuff with Joey Ingram. I think Joey Ingram took him under his wing, and then he did the prop bet challenge with Bill Perkins, where I think he ended up getting dusted in that. And then he's on isn't it the Solve for Why show? Doesn't he appear on that as well? That's
his resume that I know of. Yep.
I think I have the credits there. So, an up and comer in the poker space. And I go to his Twitter feed, or I saw it pop up in my feed. Check out the new hot drop jackpot slots on Ignition Casino. With the new winners every hour and every day, any slots player looking to light up the reels has found exactly what they're looking for: Ignition partner. I mean, what are your thoughts when you see a GTO poker bro shilling slots?
I guess that's GTO to try to make some cash. How many followers does he have? Q hover his name.
Good question. Hang on, let's guess. Let's guess first. I know I was just on his profile, but I don't know.
20.
I was gonna say like 22 or 23K. Okay, maybe I did subconsciously see it. I promise I wasn't trying to cheat. 22.7K.
Look at that ratio he's got,
dude.
This is ratio, like my
34.
The ratio of follower to, I always look at his following to followers.
Oh yeah.
So he's got 22K and he only follows 241 people. My grandma was one of her jobs was, I can't remember what it's called. It's not stenographer, but she would like work for police stations by looking at people's handwriting to give them like tips on what it meant. Like, I guess there's this science back then a billion years ago. And so like she told me when I was a kid that like you could tell like someone's ego by how big they make their first letter and their first name and their last name.
Oh.
So whenever I look at someone's name, I'm constantly like, you could see, like, I don't know, who's Donald Trump, giant D, giant T. I don't even know what his signature looks like, but this would be the pattern and so like that's what I think about when I look at Twitter followers is the bigger that ratio, the bigger the fucking ego. So like if someone's got like 50,000 followers and they follow like 8 people, like I guarantee they're fucking goddamn egomaniac.
I know it is true because like I don't think I'm an egomaniac, but I do have a little OCD with stuff. But like once you just pull the Band-Aid off with like, it's like who cares? Like the Twitter algorithm now is so fucked anyways. Like back when it was better and there was I did like care about my feed more. Because it was like you want to see things in reverse chronological and see the people you want to follow, blah blah. And now it's like it's such a free for all. Like if you say like one moderately funny or nice thing to me, I'll probably follow you. It just it doesn't matter.
What do you think about this though? So I have that in my head, the ego thing. But then also if you follow too many people, like I might not follow you back because it's like, oh, is this a spammer? Like a spammer, you know what I mean?
Oh, if it's like an even ratio. Yeah.
Or even if it's like let's say you got up to like 8,000 or something. I mean, why he follows 8,000 accounts? What the fuck is this guy doing?
I always thought about that. I think Wob follows. Yeah, see Wob's ratio here.
Well, it looks like it worked.
Good. It does. I mean, he's about to crack 1 million. I mean, he just has Spag's always on Splash Play promises that he'll follow anyone back who follows the Splash Play handle. And clearly Wob has that same ethos. Although I'm down bad because Wob follows, 960,000 people, but I'm not one of them. I'm down real bad. Yes. You know what? Mark my words, guys. If I ever get up to following 8K people, you all need to abandon me because my follow is no longer worth anything.
Yeah, but this show is over as soon as you pass that 8K barrier. I just can't be associating with that.
I mean, but back to this Landon thing. So again, I know your general take, and I agree with like free market, get that bag. But to me, it's not that like. It's more that he knew the reputational hit that was going to come with this. He had to have known his mentions would look like this, and he still did it. Like, and that's just what's wild to me of like, I hope he got a shit ton of money for this because this is one of those things that's going to like haunt you for a long time. Like every time you go to do a tweet, you're going to get the slots jokes. I mean, it would have to be a lot of money to make that worth it for me.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because the obvious one is everyone's like slots aren't beatable. You're a fucking shill for something that can't be beaten, which obviously there's a lot of truth to that. But like, I can't stand where we've talked about this before, where like Joe Rogan can do 18 minutes of ad reads before a show and then sell a show to a big company and no one cares. But if fucking Pete or Landon here sells a fucking ad for $5,000 or something, you're the fucking biggest sellout of all time. Like I just can't stand that view. But leaving like the slot thing aside, but if you scroll down there on his thing, I think like the 6th or 7th tweet, you don't have to, I'll just say what it said. Somebody was saying like they think it's part of his whole player sponsorship deal, maybe.
Okay, because is he a full Ignition partner for poker?
I guess that's what it was. I kind of read into it. I have no idea if that's true. And so maybe it wasn't like, we'll give you $50,000 to post this. Is he tells
the Manscape deal. I hope he got a better deal than that. That actually, so that's a good point because, and this goes to what is sometimes in why I've personally just been very, very picky with who I do partnerships with, because you'll often find yourself in those spots, right? Like you're signing the deal. You're like, oh, this is great. You're throwing me money, play poker. I do that anyways. This is great. Oh, by the way, in the fine print, we need you to tweet about slots. And you're like, whoa. I don't even play those. I wouldn't actually recommend anyone playing for those. And then you start to get in dicey territory with that, where I'm sure he knew that in advance as part of the deal. And maybe he was just like, you know what? I'm just going to, bite my lip, just fire off the tweet, get that money. But man, I do really, I don't know. Maybe I think about like reputational risk more than other people. Maybe I care about it too much. Like you were saying of, worrying about blowback that you shouldn't worry about as much. But it just seems it's one thing if he doesn't care. It's another thing if he hates that he had to send it and agreed to a deal that he ultimately doesn't like.
What do you do though if like you rely on that income significantly, and they're just like, hey, all of our partners are posting this tweet in the next month. If you don't do it, sorry, you're not a partner anymore.
Yeah.
I'll just fucking post it. And then you post it, and then
I
mean, it's also dumb on Ignition's part, kind of too, right? Like maybe like because now all those comments were brutal, and it's not like a lot of his followers specifically, like because they think of him as like this GTO guy, right? That they're gonna follow people who follow him aren't gonna like go fucking ham on the slots. You would think.
Yeah. And I do think like also, I mean, we think about this a lot, now with the Fantasy Life newsletter, we get lots of, potential big ad sponsorships, and like it doesn't take rocket science. The ones that crush are the ones that are highly integrated. Like we have a partnership with Underdog, and we've been doing awesome with that because we're weaving it in and out of best ball content, talking about fantasy. It's like a natural extension. Like when you just drop in a random ad, say for Manscaped, like it doesn't quite resonate with that audience as much. And that's why it's ignorant on Ignition. Like if you actually want to do this, have Landon, make a fun video of him like tilting, playing slots, make it look enjoyable, at least like put some effort into it. Because when you just literally say like, go play slots, it looks like you're fucking shilling an infomercial at like 3 a.m. on a commercial. Like it doesn't convert.
And like, what about, I'm trying to think of like Sammy Farha or somebody like the like guys who are like true gambling degens or whatever, who would actually put down money on slots as just passing the time. You know what I mean? Like something more on brand for that player, as opposed to like the GTO bro, who's like just always looking for like the perfect strategy. Like you could pick and choose. You'd think that's what, like with Manscaped, back to Manscaped, like it doesn't even make a ton of, it makes sense to like advertise on your channel, but really the benefit is like your brand, like the people come for sports and best ball and NFL and stuff like that and gambling. I mean, it's a predominantly male audience. I'm almost positive. I haven't looked at your numbers, but it's got to be pretty high up there. And so that's good for Manscaped. But like, so like, I mean, I think it's egregious to make an offer like that they did to you, but it like them not knowing if your channel's worthwhile to them kind of makes more sense than like, Super Draft or somebody.
Right. Well, and even back to the slots thing, I mean, have you seen some of the videos of Drake lately? I don't know if he does it on like TikTok live or Instagram live. And he's, I think it's roulette. He's either playing like high stakes roulette or high stakes craps, like literally like $1 million spins and stuff. And he's, the question is like, how much is he getting free rolled by whatever company he's doing that for? But like, at least there, that's like legit good influencer marketing, because it's like you have him sweating this in real time, absurd amount of money. It looks like, lifestyle aspirational of like, I could be winning that much. At least that's like kind of doing the job. Whereas if Drake just like posted a link and said, hey, play slots here, like there's no way that's working as well as having him sweating $1 million roulette spins.
Yeah, I agree. They just a disaster all the way around. And you're right. The brand, where would you draw the line though in his situation? Like, would you go like, just drop me as a partner then?
Well, this goes back to the thing where it's like, if it were me, and again, I'm not throwing like, I would say, hey, I'm willing to do, promotional tweets for poker tournaments, anything underneath the poker umbrella. But like, I don't play slots. I don't think I want my followers playing slots. Like, I think it does. There's almost like he's literally on one of the most like GTO minded poker shows out there too, finding these edges, exploiting them, all of this stuff. So I think there's just some cognitive dissonance there that I think would be tough for me to stomach.
Yeah, one of my imaginary girlfriends is on that show.
I actually now know who you're talking about because I watched. I've seen a couple clips more recently because their clips will like pop up on TikTok and in other random places now.
I have a new imaginary girlfriend though, actually. Political wise, so we're gonna have to someone's gonna have to send a message to the Prime Minister of Finland, tell her she's out. I'm trying to remember her name. There's some young former like Trump staffer running in the 11th congressional in Illinois. what the hell is their name? Christina or something like that.
Wait, are you abandoning the Finnish prime minister?
That's what I just said. Yeah, she's no longer my imaginary girlfriend.
Wow.
I can't find her name though. Christina Hoff.
Well, as you're pulling this up, I mean, and this is the thing that Brian was kind of saying, right? Like if Drake can shill roulette, this kid can tout slots. And I do agree. And that's kind of what Brian was saying with, Rogan can get whatever ad he wants and it's okay. But then like some micro influencer does something and gets slammed. That said, I would say there's far less cognitive dissonance with Drake as a very rich celebrity who wants to like gamble with his money than there is like a kid who touts like GTO poker, right? I just feel like it's a little hard, but in a macro sense, I do agree with you. And Brian, we talk about this a lot. Like I always feel slimy promoting stuff, even when I shouldn't, just because we're wired to feel weird about it.
Yeah, I know. I have the same problem. It's and like it's weird because like if you do like the Drake analogy again, like you wouldn't blink an eye if Drake is like, buy Sprite. I love fucking Sprite, and he's just sitting there drinking Sprite after Sprite. You wouldn't blink an eye, and he might not even drink sugary drinks, like, and everyone knows he's healthy or something, right?
Yeah.
But like if you did one super draft ad, you'd be like, you'd be hemming and hawing. Should I do this?
Well, in going back to the land, and I don't know, I'm not like piling on this kid landed too, but you think about the audience he's cultivated, right? Like he's cultivated an audience of people who appreciate his insights in poker. And it's like self-selected, a smart, probably discerning EV hunting audience where it's just like the slot stuff, even if he didn't feel bad about it, it's not going to resonate with his audience. It's like, go get in front of, the Logan Paul or the kid dropping bowling balls on his nutsack on TikTok, like for the slots, right? Like it just does not make any sense. And I think it's more ignition just putting him in an awful spot.
Yeah. I feel slightly bad for him. I mean, I'm sure he's doing fine, but like, here we go.
You just sent me this, and real quick, I am going to head over to the Splash Play theme here to do this to you, Brian. Never thought would come the day that I'd have to bonk you on lulz, but here we are.
Yeah, well, we should send this to Spag, see what he says.
Yeah, what are we? You got to set this up. What are we looking at here?
I think she's running for the 11th congressional seat in Illinois.
And you were voting for her.
I'm not in that district, so I can't.
But you will be campaigning or making a small donation.
A small donation.
Yeah. No.
But I felt like I should make it public so the prime minister doesn't, Sana doesn't feel, backstabbed.
Who's our friend on MMA Twitter? What would he say? He's calling dibs. You're calling dibs here?
Yeah, dibs.
There you go.
Okay.
Calling dibs.
I'm just kidding. Okay, guys.
He's just kidding. He's still in love with the Finnish prime minister. He's just kidding.
I will never. Sana Marin, that's her name.
Yeah.
She will always be my imaginary girlfriend. I also did see she's married. So like that kind of puts a damper on it,
Yeah. And I mean, it would be, you don't strike me as someone who'd be willing to relocate. I think that's why this is so attractive. You just have to move a couple districts over versus having to jump the country.
Yeah, not to Finland. Come on, people.
Finland actually probably would be pretty nice.
I think it'd be too cold. Too much snow.
Yeah, but man, the sauna life over there would be so good.
Well, I mean, that definitely changes things. If it would like continue to be an imaginary relationship, then I definitely probably wouldn't make the move.
How many like legit stalkers do you think she has? She has to have, like, her security has to be pretty crazy.
Remember when we did that episode joking around about her? She's like, she got caught like clubbing during COVID, where she had the country locked down and she was out partying.
She was on the Gavin Newsom.
She got married
COVID
since
plan.
then.
Yeah.
It seems like the politicians here are the same everywhere.
Finland Libertarian Party is just right.
I think she's like a socialist too. She would probably hate my guts.
That's your she's a 10, but she's a socialist. That's your meme for.
She's a 10, but she's the Prime Minister of Finland.
Oh my God. So did I hear you on Davis's pod making an admission that you're getting a little addicted to best ball here? I never thought I'd see the day.
Yeah. They're fun. I've been doing like 2 days on
2 days.
best ball. I could do 2. I could do 2 at the same time. And even then it gets, I start mixing it up where it's like, okay, I need to get whatever Bills and Chiefs from now on. And then I'll queue them up on the wrong draft.
Yeah.
That's just with 2. But like, if I get a little better now, then come, 2 weeks before the season, maybe I can do 4 or 5 at a time, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is crazy how addicting it was. Like a couple of weeks ago on Swolecast, and Jeff and Kitchen were like, don't you get bored with those drafts? And it's like, no, like every one is just opportunity. It's like a new present to open. Which guy will fall to you here? Can you pull off this stack? Can you get this combination you haven't gotten before? I don't know. I'm fully hooked, and I'm clearly not alone in that regard.
No. Well, I mean, that's what I said on the Takecast is that was always the best day in all of fantasy sports internet gambling sports.
Yeah.
Was draft day with your buddies. Like everyone brings over beer. You go in the garage of someone's house, pop a big ass table out, and everyone just bullshits, makes fun of each other's teams, and you hang out. And then the rest of the season, like, yeah, if you're doing good, really good, it's kind of fun. But like, if you're 1-6 to start the season, it's like, well, I have like a 0% chance of winning this, and on to next year. And like with best ball, it doesn't matter. You get the best part of the day all the time.
That's right.
Tyler was in my DMs today. Sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Who was it? Jacob. Anyways, he had a good idea. He goes, why don't they do, maybe you can answer this. Why don't they do Underdog do auction drafts? Jake Lowe.
My guess is just that the risk of collusion is just so much harder. And there would just be way more, I don't know, quality control to do, would just be my guess. But FFPC does, although, you know what? I'm pretty sure, and someone can let me know if I'm wrong, because I've done a live FFPC auction draft. I don't believe they do auction drafts online. I believe they just do them at their live events, which obviously it's much easier to make sure there's not collusion going live.
Lunchable here says it takes 6 hours, but I've done auction drafts on ESPN and other. It only takes like an hour and 20 minutes.
It all has to do with how you set up the ones I do at FFPC are 2.5, 3. Like if you have the right kind of settings set up for it time wise, like you'll be good.
Yep. No pauses. Settings, the bids last only so long. You could do it about the same time. And plus regular drafts season long is like 20 man rosters generally or whatever. So like, you can even cut some of those off. I mean, I don't know. I just thought maybe they would add that someday. Seems logical to me.
It does, but you know what's so funny too? And I was thinking about this when and I mentioned this a few times before, but when they launched the Superflex tournament, like this was something a lot of people asked for. Hey, a wrinkle with the scoring settings, quarterbacks are so valuable. Like this will be this great thing. And then I listen to the feedback and I read the comments and I see what people say. And they're like, I don't really like the Superflex that much. And I'm trying to figure out why, but Davis's take is more just like if there was a ton of content on it, like if we all collectively decided to just start doing exclusively auction content, maybe it would become this fun thing to do. But when it's kind of a niche thing, and it's probably similar to DFS, right? Like there's not much second half showdown content, right? Or what are those other little flash games, whatever. And when there's not a lot of content on it, I just don't think people ultimately like it. And I wonder if that would happen with auctions as well.
I was just going to 100% agree with you. But then when you said showdown, I'm like, hey, showdowns are pretty popular now. And that was pretty much a completely new format. But it was probably because I'm thinking like the tiers aren't really taking off. What did they have like 3 years ago? What was like where you could draft like 6 guys instead of 10. I can't remember what they called it. They canceled that too.
Yeah.
It feels like, what's the saying? Like, best dressed first in or something like that. It's just because everyone's used to it that you can't change. You can't like ML, like the PGA FanDuel switched from 6-man like it normally is on all the sites to the worst format ever in DFS, which was pick 8 players, and the first 4 play the first 2 days, and the second 4 play the second 2 days with cuts and stuff. It was so bad, and they had to cancel it after like 4 months. That was just bad. But people like, I think, just like whatever the normal thing is, which is, so if this is what everyone's used to, my underdog rankings, I know where Pat Mahomes is around 50 right now. And if you put him in the super flex, what does that mean? I don't know what I'm doing. Like maybe some of that stuff happens, but like really quick, back to the auction league, I would say from like a profit standpoint, thinking about it for 10 seconds here, the bigger the edge would definitely be an auction.
For sure.
And also I think you could automate that easier. Kind of, because you could easily have like price minimum and maximums on players.
Yeah.
And then it just adjust. They actually have that. I think you could pay like $5 and download auction league and even full league auto drafting software for yourself.
Yeah.
You ever see any of those?
I've seen some of them, like kind of the dynamic things, because I always, when I do my auctions, I try to hack together a simple thing too, where I'm kind of adjusting the values and seeing the average prices for different players. But yeah, I can see how an automated thing would be pretty powerful for that. Let's see here. Someone asked, I was going to answer this question. On Underdog, you can do best ball league with your friends. Joe asking if you can set those up. It's not just the tournaments. I do these for randomizer drafts on Thursday. If you go to the NFL lobby, you can pick your price point, 3, 5, 10, 25, whatever. If you hit instead of enter, this will just join you into a league with the public. If you hit the I, you can hit create a private draft underneath here. And then you can create that, and then you'll get a specific link. And then you just send that to your friends. So you can host private 12-man leagues on
That's
Underdog
awesome.
there.
Yeah. I'm seriously, any leagues I'm still in, I'm going to try to count them into this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you don't have to. Yeah. And you can do them as a fast draft or a slow draft. Like if you still want it to be like your kind of event where you're all around your laptop at a bar or whatever. There you go.
Yeah.
It's shocking to me. Like I feel bad because I do Underdog content all the time, but the fact that people didn't know this like reflects poorly on me, because I always only talk about these tournaments and and I never talk about the private man league. So maybe we can get
I knew it existed, but I wouldn't have known how to do it until you just showed me right there. Does that exist on DraftKings?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Legitimately.
Anyone know that in chat?
Just my guess, just knowing their lack of innovation would be no. I've never heard anyone doing a private league on DraftKings, but you can let me know if I'm wrong. Someone asked, this is a question too, and I'm starting to get more excited about this year for in season with the battle royales and the mini best ball contests. Robert asking you if you have thought about or done any Underdog golf battle royale content.
So, well, first of all, I'm trying to do less content, like any of that type of stuff. So we actually, and I'm going to tweet this out after the show, the guys at Fantasy Golf Bag are doing rankings for us and projections and stuff. This week it's just rankings. So that's Drew and Jason Roslin. I don't know who else is over there, but Drew did these rankings.
Reddit Cheek is his username, right?
Reddit Cheek is his, is his Twitter name, and it's fantasygolfbag.com. And so that's up there live though on the HUD. You could just select the Fantasy Golf Bag drop down list, and it'll have his rankings right next to the golfers. But that's for tomorrow. That's for the Rocket Mortgage tomorrow. The Royal, what is that called? Royal Rumble?
Yeah.
The Royal Rumble. I think that's for the whole FedEx playoffs.
Okay.
Which we don't have. And maybe they can add it. We can ask them.
So is that for like when they have the Pup Cup? Is that PGA, Fed Cup, FedEx
so the
Cup
Pup
playoffs?
Cup would be tomorrow. I'm not looking at your screen, but from memory, the Pup Cup is the first round of the Rocket Mortgage, and the Battle Royale is the FedEx playoffs.
Okay.
So that looks like the FedEx Cup playoff one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had it wrong. Yeah. So that one is multiple events.
Multiple, yes.
Yep, yeah, so, FedEx, BMW, and then the Tour Championship.
And then let's see, the 3-putt Thursday would be.
That's them. Yeah.
Oh,
so what is this Royal thing then? What is the Royal thing then?
I think that's just what they call their NFL weekly ones, or the Battle Royales.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've talked.
I think those, I really want to get into those more this football season. And for those of you guys who don't know, it's basically a weekly best ball tournament. My only gripe with them is they only go, I believe it's 6 rounds. It's 6 teams, 6 rounds. So generally only, 36 to 50 players are getting drafted. Obviously there's edges in exploiting that from an ownership perspective, but I kind of just wish there was a few more rounds in those. But I do think from like a game theory perspective, those are pretty fun.
I was thinking about that too. And so we're just talking about like regular basketball, but just for Sunday, right? Like just for a football Sunday.
Correct.
And I'm like, they probably at this point have to be like way more plus EV than DraftKings DFS for sure. Like,
I think you're 100% right on that.
Yeah. So if you're going to grind, if you're a young dude looking to grind, the small sites for sure, just DFS wise. And then these like best ball pick'em things, like that's another reason why I built the app, is like, I guarantee a lot of the free money is just sitting on those things.
Well, that's what I'm so excited for the Bric HUD for those Royales, because what we're going to be able to add into there as far as like ceiling projection for the DFS week in there as well. And then I think, if we could get into some stuff with obviously the correlation, but even then the average ADP, because I think people get even more anchored to ADP because it's such a small window that tournament's open. And so the same combinations are going to be appearing so frequently. So I think a combination of like really good ceiling projections, correlation, and finding ways to get unique outside of the typical ADP pockets have to make it just like massively EV.
Yeah. We also have, so I've talked to somebody about hockey projections too. So we might have that once hockey comes. And we do have a best ball bro joining us. We'll let you guys know who on Friday, who will be providing projections and rankings and exposures. And I told you too, I think we're going to add DFS too. And kind of combining like the exposures we do for best ball with DFS. I don't know how to pull that off, but it would be cool to like do the whistles go woo thing, and you have like the exposures of 1 DFS pro or 3 DFS pros averaged. And if you're a hand builder, you could just look right on there, as you're building a lineup, like here's the projection, here's the target exposure and whatever.
Do you think in, say, that Battle Royale format where I do think it's kind of interesting, we're always trying to think of like how much is correlation worth? Do you think it would be a more simmable thing just because it would only be 36 players? Because I do think that's really one of the interesting things there, where it's like, hey, if you're setting up a double stack, that's half, and a bring back, that's what, 2/3 of your entire lineup in that contest versus, taking the best ADP values. I'd be really curious to know if we could come up with some data that shows where the break-even point is on correlation in there.
Yeah. And how many is total drafted there?
I believe 36, 6 teams, 6 rounds.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that would make it a lot easier because there's a lot less combos to choose from. And I'm sorry, you were saying football, right? Because that's the same as PGA is the same way.
I think they were saying in the chat that they're similar structures.
Yeah, PGA. I've done PGA. I'm going to probably do a few today too, but it is 6 the same way, 6 and 6. PGA is a lot easier to sim though, because there's no teams, there's no correlations, there's no positions, there's very little correlation anyways usually. But so the football can be a lot more complicated. But yeah, I'm sure you could definitely figure that out. And if you wanted to grind it, you probably should. But like these type of things, like I bet you can make 50 grand, 100 grand if you really grind all the best ball sites.
Because what the problem ends up being too, right, is like, okay, if you're taking a guy at ADP, what you're sacrificing, or sorry, if you don't, is you're sacrificing projected points. But you're not only getting the double whammy of correlation, assuming you're correlating with whatever game and team you're going for, but you're also getting a huge ownership discount if you're picking a guy who's not getting drafted in all of these outside of 36. So it's like projected points versus correlation and lower ownership, which I think that poll, like it's clearly weighted towards the latter. And I just don't think people are drafting like that.
So, okay, what do you think about? I'm pretty sure you haven't commented on this, but me and Davis talked about it briefly. Automated drafting, you could do a lot of like full sim processes in DFS. Do you think that is in the future of best ball? You think it's too complicated? You think it's not worth it?
I mean, I do think it would be, I like, it's hard for me to wrap my head around a fully automated thing, but even just basically a step forward of basically whatever the optimizer, the cruncher is for best ball, where it's not like a perfectly simmable thing, but I could at least set more constraints, and I could set things like if I draft a quarterback before round 5, I do not want to draft my second quarterback until after round 13. Like I could build in these things. If I take, 2 pass catchers on the same team, I don't want a third. Like if you were able to create rules and then kind of like let it draft based on that I think starts to get a little more interesting. And you're probably like, it would probably be tough to beat someone who had like smart rules in that was automating like that, like just over a big sample size.
I'm saying that and even more complicated.
Even more.
So like it's reading the picks of your opponents and like expected, where players will be to expected in the future rounds. And so like it picks based on all this information. Right. So do you think that's going to happen?
I think I'm not going to bet against the advancement of technology. I guess I'll say it feels like it's a ways away, just knowing the kind of logical steps of like, you think about when we first got DFS optimizers to get to the point where you were able to start simming contests like that. That's been multiple years to get to that point.
That's true. Yeah. I feel like, because I just thought about those like football guys, products they've had for years for the full season stuff.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can probably do something similar on best ball. I don't know if it's in the terms and services though. Like you might not be able to, you might be risking your account or breaking the rules. I don't think so though. I think you could use whatever. I kind of hope they don't crack down on that, obviously not just because we have an app, but like, I think there'll be a lot of people who just like are interested in it, like, oh, what's this? Like you'll get a whole new brand of people.
It is an interesting thing to kind of think through. And I guess because so much of the enjoyment for people with best ball is just that act of drafting the teams and kind of, we have our own structures and stuff, but I'm trying to think through like, why is it that I have no problem simming, showdown slates and using that data for my lineups, but for some reason simming out my best ball lineups, like just feels like it strips away all the fun. Like why am I differentiating those knowing, let's just say my edge or whatever perceived edge is the same in both?
And also there's 400,000 entries or whatever into BBM3. Does it really matter if 10 guys are 150ing from using their own automated software that they created or something? Like I seriously doubt that's even going to make a dent. Even what they're making is that good. I like I said, I think there's a cap on a ceiling on the edge you can get in best ball tournaments. So I don't think even if you had the perfect software, it's going to be like devastating, like a poker bot or something.
Yeah. And no Bosock saying here that the biggest hurdle for best ball becoming massive is the time commitment to max enter. If they make it easier to enter 150 teams, prize pools will skyrocket. I mean, that's what happened with DFS, right? Like it's the 150 maxers that drive the big contests. Like if you stripped those away, I mean, that's the lifeblood of those big contests, right?
And if you made an auto drafter, they would increase their 150 maxers. Because even if it was a shitty one, here's another thing too that I think benefits from it is like once you get down to like round 14 or something, a lot of casual guys don't care. Like they don't care much, but they don't want to like just draft 8 quarterbacks at that point. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They want so like, but then you just flip the switch, turn on the smart auto drafter, right? And it's not like a huge edge or something, and it just will fill you out in a coherent manner. So like I think that would encourage a lot of maxing. So like they would draft like the first 10 rounds of guys they know, and then after that they're like, I don't know, I'm just gonna click the button.
Smart finish or something is what you logical
this
finish.
Is the things I'm like mulling around in my head. Or another thing that would be cool with it too for hand builders is it's a suggestion. Like, oh, I want to take Josh Allen, but it's suggesting whoever's around 30. I know he's around 30. Pete, you proud of me?
Well, I do think even from I know this is still more blunt than what you're ultimately describing, but even if you had, within the, best ball draft optimizer, a correlation booster, if basically you had structural constraints and then a correlation booster, like you'd be in pretty good shape, even just with those two things.
I mean, I don't think you even need a correlation booster because the more I do these, like I can just see from the app who's highlighted, who's on the team of a quarterback. I just put them in the queue and then draft them when appropriate. Like what do you need? Like you don't need some big fancy program to do that, unless you just do not want to be at your computer. Then you need an all-in-one program.
I should have known this Finish Smart comment was getting. Legible talking about the TOC best ball. They give you only so many options per pack, making you build a puzzle, and referencing this comment from Consigliere here. DFS is a money game. Best ball is Sudoku. More fun to make the puzzle fit. I definitely get that. And it probably though goes to, my guess is a lot of people felt like DFS was a puzzle 5 years ago. And then the field and the tools got so good that unless you were using those at the levels Brian is, that it didn't become a fun puzzle anymore.
Once you put money involved in a game of skill, like it's eventually going to get solved or there's going to be enough money. Like the only hope really is like that the edge is not big enough to bring in enough guys who are willing to put in the time to build shit and beat it, or just sit there and go insane entering everything. But I wouldn't hold my breath if there's money to be made, and there clearly is. And by the way, so someone said they're like, it's not going to get popular. It's fucking popular, man. It's really getting really popular.
Just like, sometimes when we're on, Club Top Shot, we're talking about these NFT projects and everyone's promising some kind of game or utility. And like the whole, what's the phrase I'm looking for? The white whale that everyone's looking for is like this killer app or game that like transcends the NFT itself, that you enjoy interacting with this so much that you even forget about number go up. And that's like what best ball is. Like we talk it, I heard you say it to Davis. Everyone agrees. No one disagrees that like tying up your money this long from an EV standpoint is like the right thing to do if you're a professional gambler. But like, it's fucking fun. And like, it's really addicting. And so it's like, they have this killer app. And so that's what makes it interesting of like, clearly people love thinking about this, making content about it nonstop. It's where does that then ultimately mesh with the edge grinders in these tools coming into the space?
Yep. I agree. Like I agree. The NFT, it would be awesome if the NFT, somebody popped off with like an Uber app popularity wise NFT, for some reason everyone's just using it and like, and they don't care about number go up. Do you imagine? Did you get to the point in the Takecast where I said, where I compared our Jokic Bitcoin to our Jokic?
I didn't get to that. I think I listened to like the first 45 minutes.
That was a short one for us, but it's near the end. I think he's like, because obviously crypto's still down from all time highs, and I was like, the thing that pisses me off about it is like the thesis of the play of Bitcoin originally, like everything you would think like that could happen happened. Just like winning 2 MVPs when you buy Jokic Cosmic in February of 2020, you think the price would be higher than when you originally purchased it, right? in Bitcoin, all the inflation's at double digits for months, whatever. There's the Fed just said they're going to rate hike it again today. There's supply chain shortages, Visa, Master, all these things, and everything's coming true. And it's 40K off the top, the peak.
Yeah.
It's the fucking same. It's like, what the fuck?
And it goes back to, I don't know if he credits it to someone else. I always credit the phrase to Drew Dinkmeyer. He says, what do we win when we win? It's like sometimes you play these things, it's like you can be right, but it doesn't fucking matter. And that goes back to this idea of, thinking contrarian and that GPP mindset or whatnot. It's like, being right does not fucking matter. It's what do you win when you are right?
It just shows you like the sophistry of a lot of all this stuff we do. Like, I mean, maybe even a lot of the gambling stuff. It's like, because you're like, we thought we had all the angles and we were right, and it still didn't matter. And like, when you're telling, no coiners back in the day when no one even knew, you're like, well, listen, do you know how the Fed works? Like, this is a blah, 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 and all these things. And like, it could get bad. Like they're printing all this money. And like, and then see, it happened. It's like, it's, it lost $40,000 of value in 2 months during the time of where it should be skyrocketing. It should be decoupling from the stock market. Yeah. And it's not at all.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that is the one, thing with, I guess in that specific example with Bitcoin too, is like for like it having a period where it's not decoupled, like it's such still like this revolutionary new thing. It makes sense that it would have these ebbs and flows with it, like on its way to ultimate disruption. And that it's almost like it doesn't spook me like, oh, the Bitcoin thesis doesn't work. It's just like, it would make sense that it would get coupled at some point with the market. Like that doesn't seem crazy to me when you pull back and think about it like that.
But it's always been connected to the stock market, basically.
Right.
I mean, for the last how many years, it just goes up when it goes up and goes up with like a few exceptions, like, multiple days maybe where they decoupled for a little bit. But I mean, hey, listen, Ricky, I still love Bitcoin. Don't get me wrong. I love the crypto. I just wish our prophecies would be right once in a while.
No, you have it's a healthy you're a Bitcoin maxi that's constantly kind of poking holes in your own thesis or how it could go wrong, the regulatory risks, stuff. I think that's healthy. I mean, even I just did for the Fantasy Life newsletter, Jonathan and I were doing a pro and con on a player, Ramondre Stevenson. I fucking love Ramondre Stevenson, but I said, I'll take the con. And it was like a very good exercise to build up the case against a player I love and I've drafted a ton. And it really is illuminating and helps you kind of, snap out of like the way it's really easy to jump into confirming our priors.
I agree. It makes me think of the All In podcast with Chamath and Friedberg when they do this on a lot of shows. Like he offers like, here's an idea for a solution for problem X, right?
Yeah. And
so like he's always like just saying, here's what you could do. Here's what I think, blah, blah, blah. And then on one podcast, he's like, yeah, I'm a diehard libertarian, and you guys are outing me right now. Like he's never said it on their show. And I was like, he's a fucking libertarian, because he offered up all these anti-libertarian solutions for all these problems. But he's just doing thought experiments in the real world. Like, here's something you could do. I know it's not libertarian, but he doesn't have to like spell it out all the time. And so you get these images of people.
Yeah.
Even on podcasts where they talk for fucking hours, literally, when you add up all the hours of podcasts, and you think they're one way, and it's like, oh no, actually he's, like it's some sort of cognitive bias we have, like, not binary thinking. I think binary thinking is more just like for dummies, but like you just get this picture in your head, like, oh, this guy has all these government problem solutions, so he must be a leftist or something. But it's like, oh, no, he's not.
in our brains, like as humans, love stereotypes and love patterns. Like we love to look at people and size them up. And like that's one of the funnest things about people watching is you look at someone from afar and you could almost tell a story. Oh, those guys are out on their first date. I could tell that they haven't interacted much. You get like that kind of shit is so fun. That's like how our brains process. And I think the same thing like you're describing. We listen to someone and we want to start putting them in a bucket. Oh, they're a libertarian. Oh, they like Bitcoin. Like once they start to fulfill this like sketch that we're used to, we want that. And when someone is more complicated than that, it like makes our brains, short circuit.
Definitely. There's something going on from evolution to just make, puzzle, you're constantly trying to solve this puzzle of other people. And it's easier if you just go, oh, Pete's a comedian. He can't do sports commentary. Right. It just, no, he's for that's what he does. Or vice versa, no, Pete does draft stuff. He can't do any, live shows. That's ridiculous. He's just a football guy. Cause it's just easier. It's just easier to label people and then just, wipe away all their thoughts.
There's people on Twitter who definitely think I'm just a comedian. There's probably people who watch my fantasy streams who think I'm just a best ball bro. That's not funny. Like there's like if it's that's how it goes. You can be whatever you want someone to be.
Yeah. The binary thinking. Sorry, the binary thinking just drives me up a wall. Where if you just go like, I don't like Pat Mahomes. It's like, well then you must like Josh Allen. And it's like, what? No, that's not actually what that means.
And that goes back to the whole thing of like what plays well on the internet and just like the concept of clickbait and hot takes. It's like you can't like lukewarm takes don't work, right? Like you have to have the most aggressive binary ones and zeros. You either hate it or love it because that's what elicits reactions and emotions out of people, which is partly why I love like having these conversations and talking. We were even harassing Dave today on the Swolecast about ADP, and I was conceding like the nuance where sometimes that it's like that doesn't even play well. People would rather have Dave say ADP doesn't matter and me say ADP is the only thing that matters. That would do ratings. And it's like that's what people want.
All right, you're definitely right, but I'm going to push back slightly. Is like that will drive the needle, that will drive the numbers, but like there clearly is a huge market for interesting conversations. Like people are thirsty for that. Otherwise, like Joe Rogan wouldn't be a thing. The podcast world wouldn't be blowing, wouldn't have blown up like it has in the last 10 years. And so like, but it's true. Like even if you have a big podcast, if you put that inflammatory clickbaity title in, you're going to bump up your stuff 120%, 20% or whatever. And if you don't have it, if you have a Brian talks about who's a Fed thumbnail, no one says a word for 15 minutes,
No, you're completely right. I mean, it's the whole reason that I'm able to do all this stuff for a living because there's this hyper niche and a market for this kind of stuff. I think the hot take stuff, that's like if you are trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator and the widest base, that still is the path of least resistance. But we do live in a world where like the amount of niche content and niche communities that are out there is absolutely incredible. Like just thinking about how the monoculture has been destroyed from even like the mid 90s is just, we could never like even forget the technology. Let's just assume the technology existed then. We would never be able to do a show like this and have anyone watching back then.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Like, cause it would be, what is YouTube, but public access TV? It's the same thing. And these younglings, Pete, don't know public access TV probably. But like back in the day, public access TV were where the crazy people did their weekly shows and you would get drunk or high and watch and laugh at these people. Like that was,
and they'll let anyone on public access TV. You just have to fill out the paperwork.
They had to.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were hilarious. Actually, some people got signed. Tom Green, right back in the day, like that's what it took to get any traction anywhere. Is like you had to like do public access TV. What we could do an A/B test on this. I was just thinking. I sent you a tweet of mine.
Yeah.
And Ludog called me out. He goes, "You're not engagement farming because you could have put the best team as like third place, the clearly best team." And then so I ranked the live top 4 live.
Yeah.
And I was generally just interested. I thought that was a cool graphic.
Yeah.
And then, here.
Should have put aces third, which is Lou's completely right. Like that ingredient 4 is like, if you do like a reasonable take, it's like, yeah, you
No
mess
one
it up
cares.
slightly, they're
Should
coming
I
for you.
tweet this again? Exact same thing. Put the aces 4.
I think it would be, the only thing I would say is maybe people recognize it. Whereas if you could do like a very similar thing like that.
Yeah, I could delete the old one. It's probably too soon.
What if, Brian, what if you did this? What if you did like top 4 quarterbacks for best ball and you put like, I don't know, put like Derek Carr like first or something, like a guy who it's not egregious. He's a top 12 quarterback,
Yeah.
but like it would be egregious to put him at 1. And then, but it's like, or it could be like Josh Allen, Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, Mahomes, like just one off there and be like, this is my top thoughts.
Like, this is 100 interactions. They'd be like, your app has got to be garbage if this is your take. But I'm saying though, like an A/B test somehow. So you do it. So it's like the same dude doing the same tweet, and then do it. This is what Brian Callen does. He's a professor at George Mason, like an economics professor, and he somehow he does this. He'll do a poll, and then he'll do another poll the next day. But he does it in a way where it gets rid of like the biases. I'm not explaining this. I'm not explaining this properly, but I wish I could think of an example he did. But like, would you say you are less likely, more likely, or whatever? And then the next topic would be something similar but kind of different. Like,
yeah,
would you want more immigration, less immigration, blah blah blah? And then the next one would be like, would you want cheaper labor force, blah blah blah, something corollary where like people would be like, no, I don't want any immigration. Oh, but I do want cheaper services, like stuff like that. And then you could like take these 2 different tests and then figure out what people actually want.
Yeah. This was a classic Lulz hodgepodge show. We started with a Fed power ranking list and arrived to, I don't know, cognitive psychology and biases. So congratulations to us, Brian. We did it yet again.
Anthony S is totally right. Yeah, if you do Deshaun Watson as the number 2 overall ranked QB in best ball, you will get plenty of interactions. And I don't even care about the interactions. I'm just interested in what works and does. That's another thing too, Pete. I know we're going overtime here, but like with your your career here it's fun figuring out what thumbnails do well and what moves the needle. It's kind of like its own little strategy game too. So like,
and then there's the game within the game, right? Where it's like, there's some things that I don't mind play. Like I like messing around with YouTube titles and thumbnails, like you said, to see what works or what's successful. There's some things I won't do. I just don't want to do Twitter threads. I know they work. There's some kinds of, I know I could crush on TikTok if I want. I recorded a video for the Fantasy Life TikTok that just cleared 100,000 views. Like I know the formula for doing this stuff. It's just like, it's not interesting to me too. And that's the other game within the game, is like, what can I continue to do to be successful without like selling my soul on things that don't interest me whatsoever?
And there's definitely this generational divide that we talk about a lot, where these young guys do not care. No. And I think they do not give a shit that you do it either, which maybe that Landon guy, to bring it full circle, he's only like 22 or something. And so he's probably like, yeah, no, this is what we do. Like Jake Paul does ads. I could do ads. Who cares? And it's just a different world, different time.
If anyone wants to do a huge favor and give me timestamps for this show, people might appreciate it with how much topic jumping we did. I really need to hire a full-time timestamp person for some of these shows where we bounce around a bunch. But Brian, like you said, lots of cool things happening with the Sports HUD. Going to announce the NFL projection soon. You got the golf stuff up there. If you guys haven't checked it out, link down below. And also in the show notes, I included our tutorial on how to get it set up on your account for doing your Underdog best ball draft. So that might be helpful. And then Brian's been fielding lots of questions in the Discord as well. You're welcome to tag him in either my Discord or in Brian's there with questions.
Yep. I did PGA ownership for tomorrow too. If anyone wants to check that out on my site. And I think that's all we got. I did the take cast. He released it, so I don't think he's tweeted out yet. And I did Degenerate 75's golfing podcast over the weekend too. That's been up and seems like people enjoy it. So check him out.
There you go.
Podcast is up.
That's right.
I'm going to listen to that after this.
Yeah, you should. It's always a wild time. But yeah, we'll be back next Wednesday. I appreciate you guys as always. Good luck on the slots, and don't forget to shave your balls with the Manscaped razor, brought to you by Lulz.